A judge sentenced a Tyler man today to life in prison for aggravated sexual assault, a case that happened over a decade ago. As KLTV7's Lauren Tier tells us, the state got the sentence they hoped for, a sentence the defense is appealing.
Today, 45-year-old Vincente Zavaleta faced a sentencing hearing in Smith County Court for his conviction of aggravated sexual assault that occurred in 2012. In this assault, a woman was allegedly kidnapped, assaulted, and abandoned in Smith County. New DNA evidence on the victim led to his conviction. Judge Taylor Heaton sentenced Zavaleta after he waived his right to a jury. The punishment? A life sentence in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division with the possibility of parole, as well as a $10,000 fine.
I will say this, the facts of this case are unusual, they are disturbing, they're violent, they're dark. Court is disturbed by this offense.
But even before the sentencing hearing began, defense attorney Courtney Warren failed to appear in court by 9 a.m., saying over the phone she was having car problems, causing a delay in sentencing. This morning, visiting Judge Alfonso Charles denied Warren's request to have Heaton removed from the case. Warren was then required to be in court for the sentencing per the demand of Heaton. The state called one witness, a sexual assault nurse examiner, to the stand to testify on her examination of one of Zavaleta's victims. The defense then called Vincente Zavaleta Jr., who defended his father's character.
He's never been a drinker. He tries to follow everything by the book if it's possible.
Zavaleta's wife and his youngest son also took the stand as character witnesses for the defense. In closing statements, prosecutor Richard Vance asked Judge Heaton for the maximum sentence.
It's rare for me, for a lot of people to come face to face with what is evil. And that's evil sitting right there. Pure evil sitting right there.
The defense says they plan to appeal the court's decision, maintaining Zavaleta's innocence.
I'm very confident that it will be overturned on appeal. There were a lot of errors made, a lot of constitutional errors made.
Zavaleta was also charged in nearly identical cold cases from 2003 and 2016. He was not convicted in those cases. Lauren Tier, KLTV 7 News.
Now, after sentencing, defense attorney Courtney Warren was found in contempt of court for failing to pay a fine previously set by the judge. That matter will now be referred to Judge Alfonso Charles of Gregg County.